Hey guys, Danny Johnson here, and today we're looking at the Jeep Wagoneer. This is a very nice full-size SUV. It has a 5.7-liter V8, 392 horsepower, and it comes across as just slightly larger than the Yukon or Tahoe, a little bit smaller than the Suburban. But there is another longer version of this where the wheel doesn't cut into that back door. It's a little bit longer wheelbase, kind of like the Yukon XL or the Suburban. But I feel like this version even had a little bit more cargo room towards the back than our Yukon does, which would be kind of a similar size. The keyless entry, I thought it was interesting. The unlock was up top. I probably would have put the lock button on the top and unlock under that. But anyway, it has the power locks, and then it has the remote start, which was a nice feature if you want to get the car cooled down or warmed up. It also has the rear hatch that can be opened from the keyless entry. So you just hit that button twice, and it will pop the back open automatically. It also has where you can put your foot under the back door, and it will open up too if you have your hands full. You can also close this by pressing that same button again, so it's nice that the remote can open and close the rear hatch. As for the badging, I think the letters are a little too big and come out to where you're going to rip them off as you wash it with a microfiber. I do like the American flag on there. I think that was really cool. For the mirrors, you have turn signals on the front. You don't see them light up behind you here on the mirror itself as others do. The glass, it's nice on the rear view mirror. You have the smaller one up here for other traffic. You also have heated mirrors. For the front doors only, you do have where you can put your hand on it and it can recognize the key fob in your pocket, which is nice for unlocking and locking the doors. However, I found it kind of troublesome as I tried to use it and then yank on the door just to see if the door was locked. It would then unlock it again. So sometimes you're lucky and you can hear it honk, and then you know it's locking it. Otherwise, it's kind of hard to tell if it's unlocking or locking. Again, the rear doors don't have that my Yukon does. My Yukon has buttons, which are nice. You push the button once and then you know it's locked or unlocked. So just a little getting used to on these. On the key fob itself, there is a little button here that you can push, and a physical key will come out in case the battery was dead. If you pull forward on these handles, you can see where that goes in there. But the door handles did feel a little cheap on pulling them. I felt like I was going to break them. Going inside the vehicle, it does have really nice large gauges when you have the settings right. A very large panel here to work with. And I really did like the control knob for park, neutral, drive, all that. And the seats were quite comfortable. Heated and ventilated seats. And we'll get into a little bit more of the interior a little bit later. Here's just a quick look of it. Nice 3 rows. You can see they even recline in the middle section there. So coming around the back, as for the styling, I think it's a little more bland compared to the Yukon. I like how the Yukon has the little rear wing on it and kind of looks a little bit more aggressive. This looks almost more like a minivan. I do like the LED lights, the tail lights. I thought that they looked pretty good for what they were. Very large wheels on it too. Low profile tires, but it still has a pretty nice ride. Here by the license plate, you have a lock and unlock button, which is a nice thing to have as you're walking away from it, as well as another button to physically open this. And if you sweep your foot under it, it will also open and close. To fold the third row seat down, it's a pull tab on each side. The Yukon had buttons and it's electronic, but I think this works just fine. I don't think it needs to be a powered thing. Folding the front seats down, sometimes you do have trouble with that third row hitting them, so you have to slide it forward. But each of the seats for the middle row actually has a little pull bar that you can slide them forward and backward, which was nice. And on the infotainment center, there is actually a button that you can press that will fold the headrests down for you as you're doing this. The only thing I did notice is you do have to scoot the seat back manually. It's nice that it has these bars for you to lift up on and move the seat forward and backward. That's something the Yukon doesn't have, but you have to get them just right for this to fold down without hitting the front seats. So it is a little bit more adjustment. This also had come apart. This is a rental with 20,000 miles on it, so Who knows how hard it's been treated, but as you push the button here, it's another way to get into the back, which was nice. But again, when you go to close this, it locks in this forward position and you have to basically push it back manually every time, so that was kind of annoying. So nice touch for them to add a button to get in, but it was kind of annoying every time we put it back upright to have to physically push this back. And it's a lot better when you're sitting in the seat. Doing it by hand's a little harder. I do like how it has the anchors for car seats on all three of the seats here. That's what the Yukon has as well, but our Toyota Tundra does not. It has anchors on the back for the car seat as well, so child safety in mind. The back seat does not have heated seats. Just wanted to mention that. In the far back, you have another sunroof in addition to the large one, so it was kind of cool to have that in the third row. That's not too common. For the rear hatch, you do have a button to push, and then you have to run and jump out of the way. On the Yukon, it's at the end of the tailgate, which made it a little nicer, but it does give you enough time to move out of the way, where the Yukon, as soon as you hit the button, it starts closing. Something to think about with the whole almost entire glass roof is that means you have to move the air conditioning vents to the sides here so they don't come out of the roof like most SUVs, and you also lose the ability to have a drop-down DVD player for the kids. There's a lot of USB and USB-C chargers. Even in the back, there's little air conditioning vents here. Again, they're not in the roof. So the design was a little bit different, but it's really not too bad. The car kept us plenty cool for our entire trip in the heat. You have your adaptive cruise control and some radar up front, and that's pretty typical now. The headlights also were very nice and bright, so didn't have a problem with those. It had fog lights as well. Going back into the front here, we'll go ahead and start this up for you. It does have a push button start, and let's go ahead and open this. One touch will open this sunshade the first part of the way, and then when you push it again, it will open it up the rest of the way for a fully glass roof, which looked really nice. And then it has a traditional sunroof for the first part, so that first part will either pop open or, in this case, hit the button and it will open like a normal sunroof would. Up here you have a few options, like a rear view mirror for the kids with sunglasses. So you just kind of put it back up there and then you can look in the back. And then the different sunroof settings there, some other options there that we didn't really use for services. The seats I wish would come out a little bit farther for my longer legs on the long trip. It would kind of hurt the legs a little bit. Same with the Yukon, they probably should come out a little bit more. The lock buttons were cool, how they would actually light up when it's locked, so that was an interesting feature. Traditional mirrors there, headlights with auto. The parking brake was electric. It does have a light that comes on when it is powered on, but there's no beeping or indication other than it comes up on the dash. It was nice when you put it into drive, it would automatically take that parking brake off. The gauges, when you have them in the right setting, they're very visible and very nice. I have a full video on that I'll put in the video description for more of that, and this infotainment system, which was really large, so check the video description for more on those. This has the heated seats. It also has a zone mode so that you can say if you want the front of the seat or the back of the seat or both, and then the different power levels for the seats, as well as the ventilated seats and a heated steering wheel. And these options could also come on the infotainment center itself. So going through, you have your buttons for up and down for the climate control. You'll notice on the driver's side, whatever you do will mirror the passenger side. And then if you want individual climate control, then you just move the passenger side heat or cooling up and down. And so these buttons will go either up or down on some of them. Going through the different climate controls, what you'll notice is if you have it on both to where it's doing the defrost, the front and the feet at the same time, it seemed to come out a little bit slow. The air almost seemed like it wasn't working if you have it on all three, and that's understandable. But basically, if you do feel like you're not getting much out of the vents, just go and turn it so that it's coming out of the top only. Or top and floor, just when you add the defrost in there to have all three on at the same time. It was a little underpowered, but otherwise it did just fine. But the buttons were a little confusing. It has the arrows here. You have to actually lift up on this button and push down on it for the different levels, and with the arrows side by side, you think you're pushing on one side of the switch, and all you end up doing is turning it off. So you have to lift up on it in order for it to come on, so you can see the different levels, and it has 7 different levels. I thought that was a little excessive. So under the screen you have USB and USB-C, as well as a key symbol, so that shows that you're getting power only when the key is on, is what that key symbol means. You have a wireless charger here for your phone if you want to put your phone down in there. You also have some control modes down here at the bottom. So you have the automatic start, turning that on and off. You have lane assist, you have traction control, you got the hazard lights there, and then some other parking assist, tow haul, and then a mute button. I did like how on these buttons they would vibrate when you push them to give you a little bit of feedback whether they're turning on or off. I really did like the knob for selecting park, reverse, neutral, and drive. It has a really nice feel to it, and it was nice using that every time I got into the vehicle. What I did notice is here on the steering wheel you have a plus and a minus, and what this is a maximum gear set is what it says. So it doesn't let you put it in a manual mode where you keep it in a certain gear, but rather what it does is you kind of limit what gear you want it to go up to, which is kind of the same thing. But basically if you wanted it in 3rd gear, you would just limit the transmission to only shifting up to 3rd, and it will automatically shift 1, 2, and 3, and then won't go any higher than 3rd. 8-speed automatic transmission is what this one had. Cup holders, I think they could have been bigger. It would have been nice if they had a way for you to remove this for a bigger cup if you needed to put a bigger one in there. It doesn't really come out, and it has these side pouches for other strange things, whatever you want to put in here, but most people will need them for cups. Under the hood has a really nice look with the plaque, 5.7 liter V8, 392 horsepower, and it seemed to move the vehicle just fine. For being a bigger, heavier SUV, it had plenty of power. There is also a V6 twin turbo model available, but I preferred the V8 as well. On a downhill version of our trip, we got up to 22 miles per gallon, almost 23. 18 was kind of normal for 40 hours of driving. Over by the selector for the shift, you have different modes for sport and everything. And so something that I did find was very interesting on this is looking for a 4-wheel drive. You have your modes, but it would be here if you do have it. So this one actually does not have a regular 4-wheel drive with 4 low and 4 high, but it does have a transfer case if you look under there. So it does have more of what would be like an all-wheel drive. It's not technically all-wheel drive, it is a transfer case. It's just a high ratio, so it's always in that gear. So as you're going through and going into the off-road version, you can see it does show the transfer case. It shows it can be locked. It's currently unlocked unless needed. And so, but it does have a 4-wheel drive in a way, but it's just not like you would have with the other button where you can put it in 4 low and really have a full-on 4-wheel drive. Did have a lot of other nice information, and again, check the video description. I have more of the details of how to get into the different modes here. As for the rear end, it is an independent rear suspension, which Ford has done for a while, and Lincoln. GM's just starting to do that now. Back inside, plenty of room here in the center console, and has a lot of other smaller compartments as well. So I thought you had everything that you needed here. As you close this, you have other little compartments that you can open here. More charging ports there. I really liked the feel of the steering wheel, and I did like the flat bottom part of the steering wheel. That was really nice, and as you're turning the steering wheel around, it really helps you know kind of where the steering wheel is, and it had a really nice feel to it. So anyway, thanks for watching. This was a quick overview of this vehicle. I'm comparing it to my Yukon Denali 6.2 liter by comparison that I've had for a few years, and I think this is a really well done SUV as well. So if you have any questions, let me know. If you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe. Thanks, guys.